greatly appreciate you being here. Good morning. My name is Kathy Contarino. I'm the Executive Director here at Impact. And for those of you who don't know, we are a not-for-profit organization that provides independent living services to individuals with disabilities in a 6-county area. The services that we provide actually keep people living in their home and actually save the state money. So that's why we are here today. And through direct services and
If you have trouble hearing me, I'm going to All right. Through direct services, we serve about 500 individuals and then 1,500 individuals, only 2,000 indirectly through information referral services. We're a small community-based organization with only a staff of 18. In 2009, I think like so many of you, we took a cut, and slowly our budget's been cut. We went from over $1 million budget to just under $900,000 budget since 2009. So I would like to welcome and thank all of you for coming and attending the press conference. We would like to welcome the members of the press, all of the organizations that are here. I really appreciate it. And our constituents who stand to lose vital services that are life-giving services if there is not a state budget in place on July 1st. We are here today to send a united message, a short and simple message to all of those elected to govern and manage our state. Please pass a state budget, one that will not eliminate essential services that are life-sustaining to individuals you serve. As the end of the fiscal year approaches and contracts for services are ending June 30th, and they're expiring, and we are left with no information to guide us as of July 1st. Do we shut down? Do we close programs? Do we lay off staff? What happens to those who rely on the services we provide? Without a budget to work from, we can't answer those questions. Our organization, many of whom contract with the state, we are all businesses. We have payroll to meet, health insurance to meet, workers' comp, unemployment taxes, utility bills, we have to keep the lights on. We are all regulated and are held highly accountable for the funding we receive. Collectively, we provide tens of thousands of jobs in Illinois. And the people in those jobs provide services that give hope and opportunity to citizens in need. Jobs are at risk. Lives of people of Illinois, people in our region are at risk. With these facts in mind, we call the governor and the General Assembly to pass a budget now. This is not about a political party or an ideology. This is about the people of Illinois. Thank you. I would next like to invite one of our constituents. Her name is Amy Foster, and she is a volunteer. She is also a member of a self-advocacy group that meets here called The Network. And she plays many roles and is also a member of a state alliance. So this is Amy for
Good morning. Thank you everyone for showing up. My name is Amy Foster. I've lived with my disability since I was born. and I've had many challenges. Today I stand in front of you, a person who, if you walk down the street, you wouldn't think I had a disability. I've worked very hard to get that to happen. I've had some great supports to get that to happen. But that's hard for me to get services. So I rely on impact. I'm telling you today, this is how today's budget will affect you. I'm going to try to do better than I did last night at the council meeting. I work as a personal assistant. I'm not the only one that works as a personal assistant, but that's my job. So I don't even know if I have a job. I've been working as a personal assistant since 2008. Most likely my client will be put into an institution, and that costs 3 times more than funding my job. Independent living offers the low-cost, high-quality care that people deserve. In the spring, at the Budget Appropriations Committee meeting, I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell my story. I was denied access. I was told we already have a preset agenda. Even after personally asking, I was still told no. This is 2015. People with disabilities have input to where we can bring ideas to the table that would be so much better. I have one. There are state facilities that are crumbling that the state wants to fix. Taxpayers are spending buku money. If we just consolidated, like most of the schools have around down here, we would save money. Take that money and move it into community living, and your tax bills would go down. I'm for sure you all would like that. Currently, I'm going to have to make some tough choices. It just doesn't seem fair. I'm not sure what to do next. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And next I would like to ask Brandon Hunter to come up and speak as an individual. He receives, he has been reintegrated back into the community through our Money Follows the Person program. Brandon, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Good morning. My name is Brandon Hunter. I am part of the Money Follows People. I had an accident in September of 2014 where I fell off a ladder with my spinal cord. Been through several rehabs. Ended up in a nursing home. I was working prior to that. Everything that I had while I was working, I lost it because I was actually in the nursing home. As a veteran, I tried the VA system to help me out, and I still haven't gotten the assistance from them as well. But I was introduced to Impact, to Money Follows People through the nursing home, and Shelley came out and she met with me. And they worked very, very, very hard to get me back into the community, from being in the nursing home back into the community. I had no furniture, I had nothing, and they furnished everything for me. Without them, I don't know where I would be. I am really grateful for Impact, and I'm grateful for everything that they've done for me. If you see my place, you probably think that I had some money because they did a wonderful job that set me up. If I am able to say that if there is any type of budget that is able to help them stay in business, it will help a lot of individuals. They're helping so many individuals as myself faster than the VA is helping their own veterans. So this is very important, not only to me, but other individuals that are looking to get out of the nursing home back into the community, to be independent, to have something for themselves, because it is very stressful, both mentally and physically, to be under the care, especially at 30 years old, in a nursing home and not living back on their own. So please, someone understand that Impact is doing a great job, and they help me out so much, and I don't know how to say thank you. There's not enough words to say thank you. So, thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Becker with Senior Services Plus. He's the Executive Director, and Teresa Collins. And I really thank them because they're actually sponsoring this with us and have been very gracious. And we actually attended a press conference that they did about a month ago, and it was awesome. They did a fantastic job, and we really thank them for working together. Yes.
Thanks, Candy. Thanks for putting this on. And it's always good to see so many of our partner agencies and other folks in the room who do a really good job for a lot of different folks in need. I guess the two things I'm going to speak to today, I know Joy Paith from HSmart is going to talk a little bit more specifically about Meals on Wheels. In anticipation of what we know to be reductions in the program, Senior Services will be reducing our 5-day delivery schedule next week to 2 days, 2 hots and 3 frozens. And the thing about that is just, the whole thing just really stinks. And this is the deal. For Meals on Wheels that are funded by the state, it's roughly $800 a year. So $800 a year per person to support them in a home is, to me, a very tremendous investment, because every day you have a staff member from or a volunteer from Senior Services coming out to check on somebody, visiting with them for a minute or two to make sure that they're okay. Well, that's going to go to 2 days a week, and I guarantee you that probably on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, we find seniors who have fallen or in dire straits in their home. Over the weekend, we usually find them on a Monday. So that 5-day-a-week check is going to go down to 2 days. It's very disturbing that they're also, at a hearing this week, announced that there'll be a 2-year waiting list for Meals on Wheels now. So it's not getting better. The other thing that I want to speak to, quite honestly, if you look around the room with the number of agencies here, I mean, our combined total, I don't want to say investment, but our budgets combined with all the agencies here has got to be close to $30 million. I mean, we are major employers. I know of Challenges and William B. Bedell, ARC, and Wellspring, and a lot of agencies. I mean, we probably employ more than 1,000 people in this area. I don't understand the business sense of cutting these budgets, which directly affects this region economically. That's not even in terms of payroll. I mean, we all know how much money we spend, like any employer, on leases, maintenance of our vehicles, overhead expenses. Our local spending is well close to $2 million, and I know that's very similar to other budgets. This doesn't help the economy. So I'm not sure the sense of what's going on. The only other thing I would add is, like a lot of you folks out there, it's not only the impact on the people we support, but it's just the general fatigue of this thing dragging out for 6 months. You know, it's not only stressful, but it's hard to maintain and plan what you're going to do for the next year. So I would agree with the governor's budget proposal. It's not sustainable. To me, it doesn't make good business sense. The last thing I would say, I know we talk about our legislators, but I would point out that our local legislators, Senator Haynes and Representative Beiser, are real champions for our agencies. I mean, they've helped us many, many times in the past secure funding to make sure we get our payments. So I'm going to turn over to Teresa Collins, my Associate Executive Director on the Home Care Program.
thank you all. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I just want to compliment a few things that John said and add some additional information. We're a 42-year-old nonprofit agency that is one of the largest employers in the RiverBend region. We have over an $8 million annual budget and over $2 million impact for people on our community. The sense of instability that our employees are facing is absurd. We employ over 320 home care aides who go out and service 708 individuals living in the community every day, which is a cost savings statewide in Illinois of over $2 billion. You know, last night I was following some Twitter feed, and our marketing director was, and legislators were stating that Governor Rauner was making compromise. He's making compromise on things like term limits for legislators, and there's no discussion of compromise for human services. And we strongly urge Governor Rauner and his administration to come to the table to compromise on things that are critical, that are cost savings and life-changing, as Kathy commented. You know, we have a story of Kathleen, who's an 82-year-old senior who's able to live independently with minimal assistance in her home, to stay a part of the community that she was born and raised in as a third-generation Illinoisan. And when Governor Rauner talks about only cutting non-essential services, I ask him, is Kathleen not essential? Is this minimal support she's receiving to stay in her home, are those things non-essential? I think not. So, you know, we'll be going to Springfield. We've made many trips during the sessions. There are extreme, excessive costs for legislators to stay in session all summer, and we hope that this comes to an end sooner rather than later before more detrimental effects, maybe as severe as death, in our community is found. Thank you. I would like to invite Amy to Sacred Creations. Thank you, Kathy, for coordinating this and for all of the good work that you do in our community. I appreciate the work of Impact very much. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is AJ French. I serve as Director of Sacred Creations, an organization based on the principle that all people are sacred creations of God. And our statewide membership is comprised entirely of persons who live with mental health conditions, and many of our members have co-occurring conditions, co-occurring disabilities, and co-occurring disorders, and use various human service systems to stay well and to live independently in the community. And as I thought about what I might say to you today, my mind kept going back to the loss of 9 precious lives last week and the profound grief that our nation has experienced. We've lamented, we've been justifiably angry, and no matter what we do, we can't get those lives back. There's nothing that will undo the trauma that assaulted Charleston and left the rest of us just reeling from afar. But today I'm asking you to shift your focus. You see, in Madison County, the number is not 9. In Madison County, the number is 40. Last year, 40 people lost their lives due to suicide. There are 40 people, 40 of our neighbors, 40 of our co-workers, 40 people who sit next to us in our faith communities. We can't get their lives back. They lost their lives because they didn't have the mental health supports they needed to keep breathing. So the question that I have on behalf of all persons with mental and physical disabilities, are we not your neighbors? See, the reason I ask this question is because we don't behave in a manner consistent with the values that we often profess to live by. As our elected officials battle over a budget that's going to fund our lives or fund our deaths, Everyday citizens remain silent on the sidelines and content to do nothing to intervene on our behalf. Everyday citizens sit and watch us die. If I knew how to write a speech that would move people into action, that would propel people to act, to right the injustices that we're experiencing, I would write it, I would say it, I would deliver those remarks. But I don't have that. So all I can do is hold up a mirror to reflect on the lives that have been lost last year and say, are we not your neighbors? That's all. Thank you.
I would also next like to invite Southwestern Illinois Visiting Nurses Association, Services for Seniors, Care Coordination, Anita, and how we pronounce your name? Marcoot.
Thank you to IMPACT for giving us this chance to all come together and voice our concerns. I want to address remarks to the Department on Aging proposed budget cuts. If the determination of need score as an eligibility criteria for entry into services for the community care program is raised to 37, approximately 19,000 citizens in the state of Illinois will lose all services. If the income level is capped at $17,500, another 17,000 people will lose all services. 36,000 elderly citizens in Illinois, who, by the way, worked, paid taxes, and gave us the life we now live, will have nothing. And if these same criteria, the DON score of 37, is applied to eligibility for entry into a nursing home, they now have no services at home and they cannot go into a nursing home. What do they do? What about the individuals who might currently be in a nursing home, who might have a score that's 36 or less? Do they get to stay there? Or do they go where? Where do they go? What kind of third world country thinking is this to put 36,000 Illinois residents at risk in unsafe environments with absolutely no supports? I've heard that it's been mentioned there are community supports to fill the gap, like home delivered meals. That's not going to fill the gap, take the place of a home care aide who can help with bathing, dressing, transportation to doctor's appointments, to get groceries. We are leaving these folks with nothing. I want to give you an example, a recent home visit. A woman in her early 80s, early onset dementia, history of a broken hip. But she's able to live at home on her own alone with the supports of a home care aide. Her daughter is her power of attorney and still works full-time. Daughter comes in the evenings and on weekends to provide supports. If this woman loses her services, what does she do? She has no services in the home and she cannot go to a nursing home. What does that adult daughter do who's not yet retirement age and has to work? We are forcing people into a system that will cause them to fail and fail catastrophically. This is not acceptable. I know, we all know, there have to be budget cuts. Our budget's in a mess. We know that. There have to be compromises. But I would ask our governor and our legislators to take a more reasoned approach to looking at these cuts so that we don't suddenly cause thousands of people in Illinois to have absolutely no help. Thank you.
And you bring up a really good point that also there is a program in Illinois called Home Services Program through the Division of Rehab Services that's for people under the age of 60. And that's another 30,000 individuals. And many of us here, myself included, are also affected by that program. Should that go away, that program keeps me working and several of us who work here working and independent. So thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite Wellspring Resources and Tyree.
I'm Ann Tyree. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Wellspring Resources. We are an $11 million organization. We serve children, adults, seniors, and families facing problems like addiction, mental health crisis, serious mental health issues. Many of the people we serve have assistance from us to remain living independently, like many of the organizations that have already spoken. We save money. We help keep people out of emergency rooms, prisons, jails, the legal system. We are far less expensive. Our community-based services are far less expensive than any of the institutional settings that you might see. And it's a tragedy to me that these cost-saving programs, these life-saving programs are just a line on a budget. To me, it's just kind of remarkable that logic and politics don't make sense. We employ 200 people in 5 counties. We serve about 8,000 people in the coming year, and quite frankly, the state owes us $1.2 million in a combination of unpaid Medicaid, unpaid managed care, because that's the new reality for us, is Medicaid managed care, and in some of our grant funding. Grant funding helps us with programs for which we cannot bill Medicaid. The governor has made clear that he wants to move to something like a Medicaid-only system, which is not realistic. Medicaid was really never intended to be the only system to support people with disabilities. It doesn't cover all. You cannot bill for every single, you can't bill for crisis. You can't bill, there are things you cannot bill for in order to sustain your organization. As a business, I agree with Jonathan, it's difficult to plan. You lose talented people because of the instability and because of what is in the news. We are in a health professional shortage area. It is very difficult to recruit the nurses, physicians, and licensed clinicians that we need in order to perform our work. And many of them, when they see the instability in the news, find other positions. It's a very competitive market. So today I have with me Sharon, who's going to talk a little bit with you about her story, because she lived through this in 2009. And that was a really awful year. We had to lay off 30 people when there were budget cuts. It was really a horrific experience, and she experienced it as someone receiving her services. So,
to understand how those cuts impacted me, you have to understand where I came from. I was a soccer mom and very, very happy. I lived on my own with the help of my parents. I had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder as a young person and was stable and living basically the all-American dream. I owned my own house. I had a year's worth of savings in the bank, and then some tragedy happened. My husband was diagnosed with leukemia. My father had a massive neuroaneurysm, which eventually took his life 5 months later. My mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. My son was mauled by a pit bull, and I was held at gunpoint in a consumer's home. So that, as you can imagine, was just too much stress for anyone to handle. So I was in a position where I had a complete breakdown and needed to apply for Social Security. Boy, was I in for a shock. I'd paid for 13 years into a system because I was stable in a job for that amount of time. And it took me 4.5 years to get an award. During that time, I lost everything. I lost my home that I so dearly loved. My marriage, of course, came to an abrupt end because there was no money to provide for either one of us. I lost custody of my son. And I just didn't have anywhere to turn. I was homeless on the street with nothing. And when you're homeless, people look at you totally different. You are very low on the totem pole. And that was an experience that I hope to never have to relive. But when you're homeless, you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And they're very degrading things. And so you lose a lot of your self-confidence and your ability to believe in yourself. By the time I found Boston Resources, I had no self-esteem left. I was entirely depressed to the point where I could barely speak. When I went in to access their crisis services, I was hopeful. for the first time. Actually, when I walked through those doors that day, it was a last-ditch effort. I didn't expect to make it to the next day, but the people at Wellspring gave me hope. And eventually I was able to get into a very wonderful program called Theodoro Place. And that was a situation where it's a building that, or program that has a place for individuals that were in my situation. And it requires that you work a recovery program. And I was able to, through them, get back on my medicine, start seeing a psychiatrist again, and I was able to stabilize. I was able to do the work that I needed to do to become the person that I always wanted to be. And I thank them for that, because without Theodoro Place and without Wellspring, I wouldn't be here. And they really honestly saved my life. Now, I lived through the cuts in 2009 as a consumer. I might mention that I do work for Wellspring now. I've come back with the career that I had previously as a case manager, and I've been able to come to work, and that gives me a great sense of pride. But at the time, in 2009, I was a consumer, and I was in the midst of my recovery process. And I lost not one, but 2 counselors that I depended on each day to help me. And it set back my recovery process by over 18 months, because I had to take that time to reestablish myself and reestablish the therapeutic relationship with yet another counselor. And that had a huge impact on me as a person. If Theodoro Place or any of the programs at Wellspring that helped me were cut, I can tell you it will mean lives. It will mean more on our jail system. It will mean more on our institutions. Because honestly, had I not been able to go to Theodoro, I probably would have ended up in a psychiatric nursing home had I survived. And as you can understand, that is a lot more. And there isn't just one Sharon out there. There are hundreds of women like me. And I cannot tell you how vital these services are to our community. It saves lives.
I'd like to invite RiverBend families, Gene Howell. And he is the operations director.
Thank you for coordinating. My name is Gene Howell. I'm the operations director for RiverBend Historic Family Services. We serve about 1,000 of the most vulnerable children in Madison County every year, which touches about an additional 5,000 lives when you work with the families in the homes. These children are under the age of 5. They're in danger of not gaining the skills they need to be school ready when they go on to kindergarten, which, you know, education is the key to relieving poverty. Families that we enroll in our program voluntarily because they're committed to making change and they know that education is the way out of poverty. Even though the families are in poverty, more than 60% of our families are working every day. These are the folks that we call working poor, that we work with in our programs. There's some of the people that wait on you at restaurants. They service your car at the auto lube. They're across the counter at many of the department stores and stores in town. In fact, more than half of our families earn, I want to say the word earn, less than $10,000 a year. So for us, the only way that our mission is successful is when we partner with organizations like yourselves to support these families. We know that they're capable of making wonderful changes in their lives when paired with case managers and help to make and set goals. Some of the resources that the very programs are in danger of the ones that our families receive. Our families are already teetering on the edge of failure in terms of academics as well as family dynamics. Without these services to support their continued growth, we don't know what we'll end up with. So our message is to our lawmakers to collaborate and to compromise. We know that a balanced budget is what's best for our state. We also know that we need to minimize the impact on the vulnerable populations when we do that. What we're asking for is conventional wisdom. It wouldn't make sense to save $5 here and spend $10 there. The programs that we operate provide minimal cost for maximum services to keep families successful. That's quality of life, it's quality of community. This impacts all of us.
I would like to ask Joy Pate. She is the Director of Age Smart Community Resources. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for doing this. It's obvious that we all need to work together on this topic. So I'm Joy Pate. I'm the Director for the Age Smart Community Resources. We're the area agency on aging. I also serve as the President for the Illinois Association of Area Agencies. We're a nonprofit organization, Age Smart. We rely on state, federal, and private resources to provide services. We're deeply concerned about the budget. We provide home and community-based services to older adults, and we're also the local planning organization for the region. These services that we provide are extremely cost-effective, and statewide area agencies provide services to over 500,000 older adults. And these are all the folks that are in jeopardy. So who would be impacted if there's no budget? It's those with modest savings, but not poor enough to be on Medicaid. It means that that simple home-delivered meal, or getting help going to the grocery store, may prematurely put somebody in a nursing home. And as Brandon can tell you, that's not where they want to be. And it's certainly vastly more expensive than home and community-based services, and you've heard that. So what we're concerned about statewide and locally, there's 15,000 fewer people who could potentially not get that home-delivered meal if we don't have a budget or we have an impasse. This equates to about 250,000 people in the entire state of Illinois. That's a lot of people. About 1,200 frail homebound elders will no longer receive those meals in our region immediately. About 18,000 people will not have transportation to the grocery store, and they'll be trapped in their homes because they're transit dependent. And of those people, they'll be trapped with 14,000 other people in the state of Illinois. So I'm sure people are thinking, and maybe there's legislators that are thinking, don't worry, families will take care of this, right? Well, you know what? 80% of care for elders are provided by families already. And as folks have said, and Anita had said, those families are working. And without that little assistance, they're not going to get any further. So we're responsible for many, many lives, as everyone is in this room. And I think, and Kathy had said it, we're receiving a lot of conflicted stories, and we don't have a lot of information. And we're supposed to go forward after July 1st, somehow. And here's some of the things we've heard. Not to worry. If the budget isn't passed, it will be business as usual, and no services will be stopped. Well, our funds to help people with simple home repairs through the community development block grants have already been stopped because they're federally funded, but the governor's holding back on federal money. So go figure that. And we're federally funded too. The state legislator, Patty Belloc, was quoted as saying, any grant payments may not be made if the grants or contracts are not completed for the time between the start of the state fiscal year, July 1st, and the actual signing of the budget. Well, that's a significant impact. None of our grants have been signed for any of our services yet. And typically, those that are connected with the Older Americans Act, the federal dollars, those don't get signed till September. So we're in a world of hurt if that's the truth. So do we go merrily on with no money? Or reserves or lines of credit if you have them? Or do you stop providing services on July 1st? You know, what kind of guidance do we give people who we fund? So to aging and disabilities, this includes adult protective services, those people who have been abused. We don't have that contract yet. Senior health assistance, we don't have that. Information assistance, transportation, Meals on Wheels. These are types of services that we don't know what to do July 1st. The Department on Aging has been unable to answer what they would do for the populations who are significantly at risk. But we're particularly concerned about those adult protective services folks. Those are our most initial, most vulnerable populations. So all I have to say is we can't jeopardize the health and well-being of the people of Illinois just because our state government leaders have not learned the art of compromise. It's that simple. Thank you.
I also wonder if Nancy Berry is here. She was to speak on St. John's Community Care. I didn't see her, so I don't know. Illinois partners for human services, they have been instrumental in organizing human services organizations throughout the state. And I'd like to invite Percy. Percy, you are, is it Vice President? Vice President of the organization. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Appreciate you organizing this. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm actually Vice President of Community and Economic Development for the Neighborhood House in St. Louis. As Kathy indicated, I've been working with Illinois Partners for 5 years. And that has given me the opportunity to meet so many great people. And I was very moved by the testimony of everyone that I've heard this morning, and particularly AJ, Amy, and I believe Sharon. One of my main concerns has been for a number of years listening to legislators talk and people in the executive branch. Even in the executive branch, I've heard officials say they don't quite understand what people do in human service. And of course, naturally, politicians are going to say that. Well, my response to that is, I don't understand that. I've been volunteering in community since I was 18 years old. I wanted a career in public service. And here my undergrad and graduate degree so that I could best that God will allow me to assist me. I don't understand how anybody who represents the interests of people and hear testimonies like this, or they're supposed to be in the field working with families, don't understand how critical this is. I don't understand how an elected official who represents the interests of people, because after all, we vote for people to represent the interests of people,
Right.
and not to represent their personal interests. And so we find ourselves this budget impasse because the governor has this turnaround initiative, which, you know, a number of us who are nonpartisan. I've not been a partisan person since 1985. And a number of us just support the leadership. But there is no rationale, on the one hand, to cut in the case of Link, for an example, Center for Independent Living. You only get $400,000 from the state of Illinois. But they're going to lose a significant amount of money, and today they're giving out layoff notices. And yet, the governor appoints an education consultant for $200,000, even though we have head of the Illinois Board of Education, State Board of Education. That's not rational. You know, when you talk about essential and non-essential, if you're really going to do that, let's look at this situation realistically. You don't pay somebody $200,000 and say, well, but she's from the private sector and she can make more money, or she should stay in the private sector, or whoever that is, they should stay in the private sector. And again, I am not throwing bombs at the government because I'll say that we're in this position primarily because of the Democrats. That's not a political statement. Some people may think that's a political statement, but it is what it is. The Democrats have been in office for a number of years. Our budget, our pension plan is underfunded. We owe approximately $6 billion. Illinois Partners represents over 800 organizations, all silos, throughout the state of Illinois. And in our region, this is a position I've taken for a number of years. We are penalized even more in Southwest Illinois and Deep South. We don't have the wealth of foundations and corporations that the Chicagoland area has. I mean, even the school district budget is close to $5 billion, maybe $6 billion, as is the city. Well, the city's budget about $9 billion, and then their county budget is $6 to $9 billion. I mean, so that's just government, and they have a significant, very powerful philanthropic community. Well, we don't have that. We don't have that. You know, we'll have programs like Lean Impact, doing great work. I heard one of my favorite people, Lan Tyree, say that the Wellspring budget is $11 million. But, you know, you got these organizations that have $40, $100 million, $200 million budgets. They're operating state. A lot of times what they do down here is staff people up that we could actually do the work down here if people start looking at this budget more critically. But it is absolutely not fair to cut money. And in my case, I work in the field. I see young people homeless. East St. Louis School District claims to have 300 to 400 homeless youth. And that's a serious problem. Now, my family grew up poor. We often had the most distressed house in the neighborhood wherever we lived, particularly when we moved from St. Louis to Illinois. But during that period of time, my dad, he couldn't read or write, but he was a laborer at Coca-Cola. And so he took care of a family of 8. And the expenses were not as much as they are now. I can remember gas being at 50 cents a gallon. Maybe I'm the only one in the room that remembers that, but it is what it is. And so, you know, again, you can take care of yourself. When I graduated from high school, anybody who did not work didn't want to work, because you could work a couple of jobs in order to make ends meet. Or actually, you could have a lot of fun, as I did, because I was at home out of high school for 2 or 3 years. But that opportunity is not available for people. You know, it used to be a time that the McDonald's jobs were for young people. Now, older people have to take those jobs. So, you know, again, this is very critical. In East St. Louis, the neighborhood house has been around for 105 years. They have a budget of about $8 million. Now, based on the decision that the state makes, and we don't have a contract, as Joy indicated, signed by July 1, the neighborhood house is going to lay off the majority of their employees. The state owes the neighborhood house approximately $1.6 million. I guess that's a figure they like, Joy, because they owe the neighborhood house about $1.6 million. It has gotten so dire at the neighborhood house, we've lost about, we've been cut 29% in human services since 2009. I actually resigned full-time. I'm working 15 hours a week so that I could keep a very talented young man who I hired as director. And so the other issue, if we continue to go down this road, we're going to lose more talented people. You know, nobody can live this way. So if we have the budget cut as proposed, in the East St. Louis area, we will not be able to serve 5,000 children, youth, and families. And that includes elderly. Close to 100 employees of the 230 that the neighborhood house currently have on staff will be terminated. Of course, parents won't have access to family support services. And the cuts may actually result in a neighborhood house closing. And the neighborhood house has been an anchor for the East St. Louis area for a number of years. Not only do they operate in East St. Louis, but surrounding areas, municipalities in St. Clair and a few in Madison County. So what I would say to each of you, and we know that we have to keep this fight up, let's don't give up. Amy, AJ, I don't use the Lord's name loosely, but I can confidently say and know that he won't strike me down for saying this, but I think about you all often. I pray for you all and for all of us. I'm just fortunate I have a couple of disabilities that I don't talk about, but God gives me the opportunity to function. And my daughter has a serious disability. Haven't been able to work for 5 years, can't get Social Security. But God bless her with a husband who can provide support. And since I only have one daughter, she has a dad who can provide support. So this is about supporting each other. And as Speaker said, we've been taking care of each other for years. It's just gotten more difficult to do so. So I appreciate, again, having the opportunity to be here. And Joy, everyone in this room, anytime I may be of assistance, please let me know. I want to be a voice, and I will continue to do so as long as God gives me an opportunity. But as stated, we don't know what's going on. I just got a call yesterday to come to Chicago Monday. I don't even know what's going on other than the fact that I was told 6 of the Democratic leadership will be involved and a number of city officials in Chicago. And when I asked, well, what's to be accomplished, I was told, well, we don't know for sure first. So that's where we're at. Thank everyone. I appreciate the patience.
Thank you. Margaret, Michelle with Oasis Women's Center.
You've all been patient, so I'll be brief. You know, as I said here, the thing that occurs to me besides the speech I have is to thank all of my colleagues, because you do so much every single day with less and less, and with more and more expectations. You do it with less dollars, you do it with less staff, you do it with less support. And, you know, we're doing that down at 11 Market, and it just occurred to me to say that, because it's amazing, you know. Mayor, as always, you being here demonstrates that you continue to care about what's going on in this community, Matt as well. So basically what I want to say was a little bit like John said, we're a business like any other business. We have a payroll to meet, our people live locally, they spend locally, we impact the local economy. The difference between our business and a for-profit business is we can't just stop making things, because what we're doing every day is working with people.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you have signed contracts. Until there's a budget that's signed, and that's online with the comptroller, you're not going to get any money. So here's your choice, July 1. Do you lock your door? Do I close the shelter? We are filling our last bedroom today with a mom and 3 kids. So next Wednesday, do I say, sorry, no food, no shelter, no clothing. We cover a 5-county area. We have a shelter here in Alton, but we also have an office in Evansville that we share with Penny Lane where we do orders of protection. We have an office in Jerseyville that covers Greene, Jersey, and Calhoun. We contract for services in Cleveland County. We have 2 24-hour hotlines. We just turned them on. And I'll just talk about Madison County. Domestic violence is #1 police call in Madison County. We have over 1,300 orders of protection issued in this county a year. That's 5 a day when the courthouse is open. And we aren't the only people that are dealing with domestic violence family. A lot of you are as well. An average of 3 people die in this county every year of domestic violence. Babies who are beaten to death, elders who are beaten to death, and everybody in between. So we are more than willing to take our share. We took a 5% cut this year like everybody else. We know that we need help with the budget. We certainly will. But what is our choice on July? So I said to our board, are you going to close on July 1st? Are we going to operate on whatever money that we have and whatever money we can get? So we have to make a decision month to month. And we will be open for the next month, so call us. And beyond that, if we can.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and you are my neighbor.
I'm Debbie McMahon from Challenges Unlimited. Do we have a moment?
Well, like everyone else has said, I feel like just saying ditto and just go
Okay,
ahead and sit down.
okay, all right.
It is good to see everybody that we work with and share people through and make a difference for people with disabilities together. And as always, like Ron Reed said, it is great to see the mayor's office here, and we appreciate them coming out when we have press conferences or legislative meetings in our agencies. I'm with Challenge Unlimited and Residential Options, and altogether we probably work with around 1,000 people on any given day. So as you all know, when there's no contracts to be signed, that's a lot of people to be affected. And the only reason we exist is to make a difference for people with disabilities in terms of increasing their independence, helping them work, live, and participate in the community. It's really the only thing that we're about and what we do want to make a difference for. And with people that are successful in living and working in the community, I guess something I don't really get when we work with legislators is these people are contributing members of their society and their communities.
Right.
And the only reason that they can do that is by, having employment opportunities, a place to live, as Sharon talked about. And, there's so many ways that people can contribute, but they have to be able to be allowed to, it seems like. So I guess my basic message is, Kathy, with the current state budget shortfall and the lack of contracts being signed, it's just a people thing. It's going to affect lots and lots of people. Not only are people with disabilities of varying degrees, staff can lose their jobs or be laid off and lose their income. And they live in the community as well, as we've said before. And then, people with mental illnesses are going to lose their supports, which creates a vicious cycle of causing more expense to the state, with emergency room visits and hospitalizations, homelessness, incarceration, etc. So I think it just all boils down to people. This is a people issue, and that's what we need to get across, that we can't make a difference for people if we don't have the resources to do so. Thank you all.
Gary Osborne with William McDowell, thank you for being here as well.
I'd just like to make a couple comments. I could say ditto to everything that's been said before. We don't know what we're possibly going to lose as far as grants or fee for services at this time.
The one thing though, a little bit on the flip side, what we do know though, just for example, our healthcare went up 13.4%. We have 124 staff. That represents a $50,000 increase. We're already paying about $500,000 for healthcare. So the price goes up, the plan goes down, unfortunately. Again, we don't know whether we're going to take cuts, but those are bills we have to pay. We know they have to be paid. The other thing that's of interest is they're talking about cuts, but they're also talking about minimum wage increases. A minimum wage increase to $9 would cost our agency another $10,000. The move to $10 an hour would raise the cost to $84,000. And again, we're talking about cuts in budgets, but we're talking about revenue increases or expense increases in those line items. I'm all for minimum wage increases, but we've got to be able to pay for them. Like everybody else here, we don't have the opportunity to raise our rates that are established, and we're in the same boat as everybody else. So thanks for the opportunity. I didn't have a lot of planned information, but I know everybody's in the same boat.
Thank you very much. Well, as we wrap up, I really want to thank Mayor Rucker and Matt Esselman for being here. Welcome to, if you'd like to.
We're basically in the same boat that you are. We just passed our budget. We're looking at cuts from the government. We're already having to play off firemen, 2 policemen, animal control, all the seasonal, so you're going to see grass grow. So we feel the pain just like you do. It's unfortunate that I guess maybe the governor, where he lives, he can call it into service and plow snow. A lot of us in Alton don't have that luxury, so I don't think he feels like the way that we do, and it clearly shows with what he is willing to cut. He really doesn't understand how, I wouldn't say normal, but people that do struggle, that don't have the resources he does, he simply doesn't care. So we feel the same pain you do. We're all in the same boat. We all live in the same community, and every group that does a tremendous job, and it's absolutely unfortunate what we're going through right now. So thank you guys for all the work you do in our community.
Thank you.
I just had another comment. We had some information we received from a group that we work with at Springfield. Since 2002, the inflationary factor has grown 28.9%. The developmental disability and service rate of increase that we received as far as cost of living adjustments over that same period of time is 9.5%. Now that's not compound. It would be more for a compound. We're losing money every year just if we stay even without cuts. I think that's important.
Well, it boils down to less money, more people to serve.
Right. Exactly. Do more with less. Exactly. Do any members of the press have any questions? Thank you, the Telegraph, WBGC, and RiverBender for being here. We really appreciate that on a rainy day today, you all being here. Are there any other questions, or would anybody else like to make comment? We want to give everybody the opportunity. And to thank you all very much. I think that our message is just really important, and I'm just so excited that all of us are here because, you know, united, we are really stronger. And we all have to support each other and be there for each other. We all provide very important services, and we're all just trying to make it in this world. So we just thank you all very much for your time. Thank you.